Hello, welcome to That VidBlaster Guy. I'm Tom Sinclair, your host for today's show, and I'm really glad to be here. Let me tell you how I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad you're here with me, whether you're watching live, yay for the live guys in the chat room, hooray, or watching us later on YouTube. We would, of course, invite all of our YouTube guests to come join us Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock in London, and who knows what time it is in Sydney, Australia. But it's Thursday morning there, early. And we appreciate our friends from Australia that get up and watch us live on the way to work. I mean, that's really cool. Last week's show, we did a YouTube Live. I mean, we actually did it live and was forced into it. I'll tell you about that in just a second. And so I thought I would kind of peel back the veneer, the polished veneer of how perfect this show is. Yeah, right. And let you see how I did it, because a lot of people have asked, and there seems to be some question, how hard it is to do. And I didn't think it was that hard. And if I can do it, it's got to be easy, right? Right. But we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. The premise of this show is that one guy with one PC and the right software can do a pretty darn good broadcast. And we are now in our second year of That VidBlaster Guy, and we're getting into the pretty darn good broadcast parts, I think. We've gotten lots of help from our friends with graphics and flyaways and all sorts of other stuff, and I really appreciate that. To Martin and Charles and all of those that have helped out. To Mike helping out with the audio. It was a great year. And the second year is starting out really, really well, too. And somebody's saying it looks like we're doing 10 frames a second. Oh, maybe we have a problem. Hang on a second. Let's see if we can improve that somehow. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's go back here and see. See if that helped a little bit. What does that look like in the chat room, guys? Did the frame rate improve at all? Or do we know yet? Okay. You guys tell me. It looks like my CPU usage has really jumped up higher than normal. Bob says not a problem here, so maybe it's something going across the pond. I'm sorry. Okay, back to the show. Sorry about that. So last week we did YouTube Live, and I wanted to do YouTube Live and do the regular Decast feed, but had a big problem in that, remember I was on vacation, or I don't know, expect you to remember, but 2 weeks ago I didn't have a show because I was on family vacation. It was really wonderful, but when I got back, Decast had made some changes, and the embed codes that I was using on my website no longer received the stream. The stream went somewhere, but it didn't go to those embed codes. And I tried reaching Decast right before the show, 20 minutes before pre-show, and I did the little chat thing, and you know how it is. Sometimes it's really hard to communicate what the problem is, and I don't think they ever understood what the problem was, and I didn't get it fixed by showtime. And so basically, I since I was already ready for the YouTube, I took the YouTube embed codes, threw them in a website page, just a blank page, as those of you that watched last week saw, and that was the show. And it was okay. It was the downside was there was anywhere from a 20 second to 2 minute delay between the time I said it and the time you heard it, and then if you typed it into chat, it was 20 seconds to 2 minutes later. So it was a little uncomfortable from my perspective to know that something I said you weren't going to hear for a minute plus or minus, and so that made me not feel as comfortable as I normally do. So I probably won't use YouTube Live again for a live show like this. I could see using it for a broadcast of a civic event or a sports event or something like that, because one of the benefits that I saw right off the bat was that YouTube took my 480p stream and they re-encoded it at 360 and 240 live so that people could watch it at a lower resolution if they had a slower connection. And that probably would have been even more beneficial if I was doing 720 or 1080, and then somebody could have picked it up at 360 or 480 if they wanted to. I also noticed after the fact, because the YouTube, when you do a YouTube live, it records everything. So the pre-show and the post-show were both in the recording. And if you go back and look, I've actually posted the recording that I made, so you can compare it with the recording that YouTube made, and the YouTube recording is 50 minutes longer or something like that because it's got the pre-show and the post-show. But it was very interesting to see that, and and just the whole concept of recording the pre-show and the post-show was kind of fun. I don't know that I would want to do that all the time, because for those of you that are there in pre-show or post-show, it's not private, but it's more personal, because it's not being recorded, and we can speak frankly, and we can make jokes and that kind of stuff, knowing that unless somebody's recording it, it's not being recorded, that we know of. Dacast, who is streaming it today, I did get those embed codes fixed, by the way. Dacast does not record live streams at this point, so that's not an option. Yeah, and somebody's saying in chat that there were no ads in the YouTube feed, which is really interesting because YouTube really is big into monetizing everything they possibly can. I don't know that I had an option to monetize it or not. I'm going to run through that whole process in just a second so we can see. What else was I going to tell you? Something else good. Something else good. Oh, well. Anyway, Dacast is fixed now, and so we're back to the way we were. Yay, back to the way we were. And then we can look at the YouTube live part. One of the questions in the pre-show today is, am I using Dacast's HTML5 streaming, which allows for iOS devices and other personal devices? I'm not, and I keep meaning to, but I always seem to have something that I trip over pre-show when I should be testing or something like that. So I will hopefully get to that in the next show or two, and we can give that a try and see how it works. I'm not really a fan of anything that's going to slow down the feed from me to you. So if it means that it takes 20 seconds for you to see it, that's too long in my book. I really value the interaction. For those of you that are watching live, I really value your interaction in the show. It means a lot to me, and it helps. I think it helps for a better show and certainly more interesting. Generally we have a breaking news segment for the show, and I thought we were chatting in pre-show, and somebody says, "Hey Tom, are you using version 3.15 yet?" And I thought, 3.15? It's out and I missed it? Oh no. So I went quickly to the VidBlaster forum to check and see if I could find 3.15, but 3.15 sadly has not been released. But if you're interested in getting a copy of VidBlaster, the trial version, you can go to forum.vidblaster.com and go to the downloads section and download the latest, greatest 3.14, 3.15. Should be any day now, but 3.14, and give it a try. It's a trial version. It's equivalent to the Studio Edition, and it can be a lot of fun and a great way to see if it's going to work for you, see if it's going to work with your hardware and any other software that you might be using. And if you have a question you think I can help, shoot me an email, Tom@thatvidblaster.guy, and I'd be happy to give it a go for you. If we get into an extended, tech support thing, I might ask you to buy a tech support package. But other than that, I'm happy to answer questions. So let's take a look. Since 3.14 is what we've got, and that's what I'm using to stream today, let's take a look at what went on with YouTube and its new live service. So let me reconfigure my desktop here a little bit so that I can get all the necessary stuff here. And I think I've got a screen capture. So I tried to do this in pre-show, or actually before pre-show, and record this separately so I could just play it for you, but I couldn't get it to work right. Sometimes I'm just really dense. So let's just do it live. Let's do it live, and this will be great because the guys in chat that have questions can fire me a question, and I'm sure if one person has a question, probably 10 more people have the same question, so we can go and explore what the answer to that question is. I will tell you in advance that, oh, no, it won't. I think I can fix that. Okay, let's do this. This is going to be YouTube Live. This is what I did last week on last week's show. So let's switch over to a VidBlaster screen capture of my YouTube page. Let me take off the lower third right there. And you can just see this is basically the shows that I've got going back, months and months and months and months and months. Lots of friends on there. A lot of fun. And over here on the left side, you can see where it says uploads. Right below that, it says live events. Well, this live events tab is, oh, the mailman must be here. The live events tab is there because I was approved for their live program. And now you only have to have 100 subscribers to get approved. At first, when it first started out, you had to have 1,000. Now it only requires 100, and I had 100. Thank you very much. And so was approved pretty quickly. So if I click the live events tab here, it's going to take us to the events page. And you can see in big blue letters it says schedule a new event right above it. There are currently no upcoming events. So I'm going to go in the top right hand corner here and set a new live event. Now this is an event that will occur in the future. For those of you that tuned in last week, prior to the event, you saw that you had a big screen with a countdown clock on it. So this is how you do it. So we're going to create a new event, and for the title, we're just going to give it just a title. How about the show? We can also give it a description. We can also give it some tags. We'll give it a tag about VidBlaster. And you can give it, I think, quite a few tags. I've had some of the shows that I've got 20 or 30 tags on. And then I'm going to scroll up here just a little bit. You can see where it says that it's starting August 14th at 3 p.m. Well, let's back that up to, say, 5 p.m. And it ends August 14th at 6 p.m. That'll work. That's an hour. And it's in the United States, and it is in the Central Time Zone. I'm going to keep my privacy setting for public, and I'm not going to make a message to you guys for Facebook or Twitter, but I could if I wanted to, and I'm in the category of science and technology. I know that's a bit of a stretch, but anyway, that's where we're going to put it. There was no category for idiots, so we went to science and technology. And so we're going to create an event. Ta-da! We've created an event. Now, we have the ability, I'm not going to go into this too much because there is an add a camera feature here, and I haven't figured that one out yet, but we're going to use the main camera, and that's really going to be the VidBlaster output to Flash Media Live Encoder. If we wanted to put in a thumbnail that was a graphic or a picture about our show, it could be up to 1280 by 720, and it would be all the normal file types, and it would be less than 2 megs. But now's where we get into the real tech geeky stuff. Choose a maximum sustained bit rate of your encoder. Well, our encoder is going to be Flash Media Live Encoder. And I am going to say basic ingestion. And I'm assuming that's YouTube's way of saying, hey, we are ingesting your video. How do you want us to ingest it? And my choices are 1080p, 720p, 480p, 360p, or lowly 240p. Well, last week I did 480, because that's what my show normally is. And at 480, Ustream has a suggested bit rate of 500K to 2000K. I'm going to select that one. And when I do, it gives me some other options. Under custom injection, and let's select that one for just a second and see what it says. It says select your stream, create a new stream, manage streams. There is no save stream. Well, we don't really have a stream yet. Let's go back to basic injection. But we can select our encoder. And we have select an encoder, Wirecast, Flash Media Live Encoder, or other encoders. So we're going to select Flash Media Live Encoder. And we can download and install the HTML file. We can export the settings. We can import profiles. Let's do the fun way, because we're going to do it with other encoders. We're going to be bold and adventuresome. So to configure our encoder, recommended settings, and this is where you get into the guts of it a little bit. At 480p, a resolution of 854 by 460, maximum 2000, recommended 1000, stream at 500. We're going to do 1000. And let me pull up a flash window here for just a second, and so we can sort of follow along on this one. And so here's where we've set under bitrate right here, where we've set 1000. I'm going to use 864 instead of 854 because that's what it is in VidBlaster, and we'll let YouTube deal with it as best they can. Under protocol, RTMP flash streaming, well, that's what Flash Media Live Encoder is. Video codec is H.264. You can see we're set on that already. My other choice would be VP6, but H.264 is what they want. And then notice the little wrench here to the side. If you click that wrench, it brings up another window. And hang on, let me do a little screen cap of that other window, because for some reason that window just won't it won't move. I can't drag it in. So let's see if we can cut to that window. Hang on a second. Yep, there it is. So on that window called Advanced Encoder Settings, we've got 3 different categories of information there. We've got something called Profile, and a little drop-down box here with Baseline and Main as our 2 settings. Now, Baseline is I believe this is the default setting in Flash Media Live Encoder for Baseline. At most of the time when I've streamed in the past, it's been, when I've looked at this, it said Baseline. But YouTube wants us to use Main, so we're going to switch over to Main. Level gives us multiple levels, and these are things that Flash Media Live Encoder uses to make a lot of choices about settings internally. 3.1, I believe, is either 3.0 or 3.1 is the default setting in Flash Media Live Encoder, but YouTube wants us to use 4.1, which would be higher quality, so we're going to select that. Keyframe frequency, you've got choices between 1 and 10 seconds. YouTube wants 2 seconds or less, and when I set this at 2 seconds last week, it gave me a red flag, so we're going to set it at 1 second and then click OK, and that's going to make that go away. And we'll go back to our other screen over here and see that we've now got H.264, we've got Main, we've got 4.1. Our keyframe is set for less than 2 seconds. And let's pull the Flash Media Live Encoder window back up, and you can see that we've got 30 frames a second set right here. And the audio codec, this is kind of interesting. This is AAC-LC. Not sure what the LC means, but AAC is a codec that you have to actually purchase a license to. I don't have a license to it, so I just use the MP3 format, which is the only real choice I've got in Flash Media Live Encoder. And last week that worked okay. I mean, you guys heard me, so it must have been working, and I think it sounded pretty good. I do use the recommended audio sample rate of 4400 or 44.100, and the bit rate recommended of 128. And you'll notice that I've got my volume maxed out right there. And so that's sort of, oh, and the other thing on this audio side is I've selected my mixer as my audio capture device. And then, of course, let me end where I should have started, which is to say the video device is the stream from VidBlaster. And this is currently set for VidBlaster VVD. Well, what the VidBlaster VVD is right here is a module in VidBlaster that I've established that's an output module. And I'm telling it to output to the VVD, to the VidBlaster VVD, a particular module, which is an effect module, which is me with this background. If I had it output the program, which is generally what I would be streaming, it would be one of those, images that goes off to an infinity. So I didn't want to confuse everybody with that. So I'm not really streaming the show. I'm just streaming this particular shot of the show as an example of it. It gets even more confusing, but at the same time powerful, because VidBlaster has two VVD options. So you can make two different kinds of video information available to programs based on what you want to do. So if you've got a Skype return video and then you want to show a show, those can be two different video feeds. Or in this case, I want to show. I want to stream this show, and then I also want to show you something that's part of the show, but it's different. So I can do that. And one of the VVDs is contained in the output module, and the other one's contained in the streamer module. And we might take a look at that at the end of the show if we have some time. But let's don't get sidetracked. The video device that we've selected here is called VidBlaster VVD. We know that's the VVD from the output module. If I drop this drop-down box, you see not only is VidBlaster VVD one of the selections, but VidBlaster is one of the selections. So if I click that, that should change over to what the actual stream is that you're seeing. You can see now it's kind of going on to infinity, because that's what the streamer module's VVD is showing. And the streamer module's VVD is always called VidBlaster when you're looking at it in a device as if it were a camera. So we're going to go back to the VidBlaster VVD, which is just a shot I've got set up for myself that looks like something. Boy, that was a long ado about nothing. Sorry about that. Anyway, it's important to know that your video device is format, frame rate, input size, bit rate, all of that, and then the same thing on the audio side. Okay, now that we've done the video and audio, we have to tell Flash Media Live Encoder where to send this information. And if you're using a different encoder, you will do something very similar. So let's go back to our YouTube page, and let's go to the previous page where we just came from, and you'll see that we have copy and paste into your encoder. We've got three different categories of information: stream name, primary server URL, and backup server URL. Okay, well, let's compare that to Flash Media Live Encoder. Flash Media Live Encoder has got similar pieces of information. Let me slide this over for just a second. And we'll go ahead and just take those out so that they're blank. And the very first one with Flash Media Live Encoder is FMS, Flash Media Server, URL. Second one is backup URL, and the last one is stream. Well, interesting, in YouTube, stream name is the first one, so don't be confused. Let's copy that, and then we'll bring our our FMLE window back up, and we'll copy the stream information and paste it into the stream field. So the first is last over here. The middle one here, primary server URL, let's copy that one. And we'll put it into the first field here for FMS URL. And then the only one left is backup server URL. We'll copy that and put that into the backup server URL field. And we are now all configured in Flash Media Live Encoder. This is good news. If we were going to stream, at this point, we would click Start right here. But I don't want to overload my PC by sending out two separate streams, both of which are being encoded at 864 by 480, 1,000 frames, excuse me, 30 frames a second, 1,000 kbps. But let's go back and show if we were doing that, what would it look like? And that's here at the live control room. So it's getting time for our show. Let's say that we've told Flash Media Live Encoder, we've clicked the start button here and we've started the stream. This red part right here in YouTube turns green. Right now it's saying, hey, we're not receiving data from your encoder. Well, that's because we didn't start it. But had we started it, this would be green. We would click Start Encoder. We could preview. Right down here where it shows no data, it would actually say 480p. And it would say the status is good. Now, if there was a problem, if we'd forgotten to change the profile from baseline to main or something like that, then it would actually tell us this right here. And we can scroll down a little bit more and see that there is a preview window and a public view window. Let's look at the public view window just for fun. And there you can see that we've got 2 hours and 17 minutes, 25 seconds until our show. So if somebody goes to this show right now, that's what they're going to see. They're not going to see a pre-show or anything like that until we're ready to go live. If I had started Flash Media Live Encoder, it would show up here. In fact, we're just playing around today. Let's see if we can't. Let's drop this down to about 200 kbps and see what happens. We may just kill everything, but let's live dangerously. So let's start that up and see what happens. I'm going to monitor everything here. You notice that in YouTube, stream status says good. I don't believe it says good because I put it down to 200K. I'm beginning to tax my PC a little bit. So let's keep an eye on that. And we'll go to preview. And it says, are you sure you want to preview this live event? It may take a few seconds to process your stream. Boy, does it ever. So now our heading has changed, and it says in green, we're preparing your live stream preview. Please wait a moment. And we're still in the start encoder phase. Start streaming, which we have already done. It says we are not yet receiving data from your encoder, but it really has, because it tells me down here that the stream status is good. I'm not quite sure where that disconnect is, but it's still new. And we'll see our show down here is still saying please stand by, even though we're sending information. Let's click here and see if there's any show there yet. We're going to mute that because otherwise that's going to be really confusing, because it's like minutes behind. And that's 200 kbps. That's not a bad looking picture for 200 kbps. So we are streaming all over the place. I'm going to stop that stream because I'm afraid I'm going to crash everything by streaming too many things at one time. So let's stop that one. And it'll take a second for it to stop. You can see the hourglass there. As Flash Media Live Encoder shuts everything down. And now it is shut down, and in just a second, YouTube will tell us, hey, oh, there it is. We're not receiving any data from your encoder. Please make sure it's configured correctly in the ingestion settings page. And down here, the stream status says no data. So that is correct. And it shows me what I did look like a little while ago, and that in 2 hours and 14 minutes, we're going live. Now, there's something over here on the right that says broadcast alert, which is where you can put up a note that says the broadcast has been canceled, it's been delayed, it's ended early, it's been rescheduled, we're experiencing technical difficulties, please try again later. Boy, I wish I I could use any and all of those. And then the slates insertion, where you can actually, I think that means where you can slip in and out of the live video, and then where you can insert ads that have been enabled for live broadcast. And I think those ads come from YouTube, but I wouldn't swear to it. Didn't use them, so I'm not sure. But for my brief experience with YouTube Live, it was basically just to get a show out there so that you guys could see it. But that's kind of the long and short of it. My impression was that it was pretty well thought out. It worked. It didn't work properly for me the first time because I didn't have all the right settings. I probably could have had YouTube send me an HTML page, excuse me, an XML file that I could have loaded into Flash Media Live Encoder, and it would put in all those settings for me. But I really do like looking at all that stuff myself and seeing what things are and how they work together. Helps me understand if there's a problem, where the problem might be. What else? I like the fact that there were 3 different streams available, the one that I was sending as well as the other ones that YouTube was producing. I didn't like the delay. I didn't like the 30-second to 50-second delay. I didn't like that our friends in Germany and perhaps other countries could not watch. Not sure. I suspect it's politics more than it is either politics or money that prevented that from happening. And so I wasn't very pleased with that. And I probably will not use this service again for a talk show format. But I can see where I would use this for an event of some type, especially if it was an event where I thought I would get a lot of drive-by viewings. I'm not quite sure how YouTube, if they do any kind of promotion, internal site promotion on this, or whether it's just live to people that are subscribed to my channel and might see that we're doing something live. I'm not sure. I think I probably would get more drive-bys with Ustream or Justin TV at this point than I would with YouTube. But it's hard to say. Not sure. You never really know until you try it. But I was pleased. And the other thing that I thought was really kind of cool was that the recorded version actually added a 4th encoding at 144p, which I guess would be perfect for phones. So you can go back and watch last week's show on your phone through YouTube, and I guess maybe YouTube will select that one for you if it senses that you're coming on a mobile device. I'm not quite sure how that works. Let's see, we've got some comments here in the chat room. Martin says that there is an ads insert option. I think that's true. And Mikey G, hey Mikey, is there a monetization feature through subscription? I'm not sure about that. You'll have to check into that one. Since I'm not going to use this again, most likely, I really didn't dig into the kind of the bells and whistles that went along with it. And Greg says that Slate's insertion will be to enter a pre or post ad. An insert ad option allows you to insert ads at specific points in the broadcast. Thank you, Greg. That clears that up. Nice to have folks out there that really do know what they're talking about. So YouTube Live, it was a good experiment. It worked pretty reliably. And if I were doing the right kind of event, I would probably do it again. And from what I've read a little bit here and there, is that folks seem to think that YouTube is really sort of pitching this towards events, concerts and things that would gain pretty wide live audiences. And that's not a bad strategy. That's not a bad strategy. They certainly have cornered the market on recorded video. Duh. Anyway. Okay, so that was YouTube Live, and it was a lot of fun, and we will file that away under things that were fun that we will never ever do again. Let's go back and talk a little bit, and I'm probably going to bore you to death on this one, but a little bit about VVDs. It sounds like some sort of disease you get, but it's a virtual video device. It's a way to make the output from VidBlaster appear like it's a camera for another program, like Flash Media Live Encoder. I don't know if you noticed, but a few minutes ago when I was showing you my Flash Media Live Encoder, and let me show it to you again. And I dropped down the, let's find it right here, hold on. And I dropped down the devices here. It's got VidBlaster VVD, but also, I don't know if you can tell, it's got also 2 HD cameras and 4 SD cameras, as well as my Logitech C920 webcam. So it's going to tell all the cameras. Now these are all in use. Well, I take that back. They're not all in use. That one's not in use by VidBlaster, so I can show it to you. That's HD cam. And that HD cam is right there. That one's not in use by VidBlaster. So I can select different cameras in Flash Media Live Encoder, and the VidBlaster VVD is like a camera. Now this is actually the output from, and let me do readjust my screen capture here. Oops. Capture, select area, there we go. Well, I'm not getting, let's try one more time. Capture, select area. Isn't that interesting? Not sure what the problem is. Let's try one more time. We're going to do a screen capture, and we want to capture a select area. Look at this. I cannot do a capture. Isn't that interesting? I don't know what the problem is. Let's see. Let's just reset that module as a screen capture. Right click. Capture a select area. The screen goes gray. There we go. Now it's working. There we go. That's what I was trying to capture right there. Not sure why it was such a problem. Here in the middle, you can see the streamer. And let's see if we can see anything about it. Now we can't really see, but right now it's at, well, let's see. Let's add another streamer module. Because I've got the broadcast version here, which happens to have more than one streamer. Never really had a need for 2, but here's a good use for 2. So here's a second one. And if I select, oh, you can't quite see that, can you? Well, let's risk it and do a screen capture that's a little bigger. Capture, select area. About there. There we go. Okay, so we've got streamer number 2. We're going to say stream 2, and virtual video device is our choice. And then we're also going to identify the video resolution as auto, stream 2 is virtual device settings, display size, and a market, stop, start. And if we start it, whatever's in our program window will be there, but we're going to stop it because we don't want to use it right now. The output module, you can see here, is set with Effect 4, which is just one of the camera shots that I've combined with the green screen and the background. And VidBlaster VVD is my destination. And so that was the destination that was showing up in Flash Media Live Encoder. Let's see. Yeah, we don't want to get going live like this and actually using it to stream. I don't want to bung up something and actually have a problem. So trust me that, well, here it is, VidBlaster VVD and VidBlaster are the two options here in Flash Media Live Encoder. Both of them are virtual cameras or video devices. One comes from the output module, the other comes from the streamer module. And I have found this to be useful in cases where I am doing a Skype guest and I want to send return video back to them, and of course I want to stream. And so I'm using the streamer to send the VVD to Flash Media Live Encoder, and then I'm using the output module to send the video VidBlaster VVD to Skype. About 6 months or so ago, I was using the output module to do both of them, and sometimes the video either got squashed or stretched. And I never really understood exactly what it was, but I think it had to do with whichever software was really sort of requesting information from the VVD, and the VVD would do its best to respond. And of course, as you know, sometimes YouTube in the past has been 4:3 aspect ratio only. The show is 16:9, and so it can be a little confusing for the software as to which one they want to do. Boy, I did a terrible job of explaining that, but I hope somewhere in that you got the idea that there are two virtual video devices available in VidBlaster, and there's a lot of flexibility with it when you need it. That was the purpose of that whole discussion. So I appreciate your patience with me and your graciousness. Let's talk a little bit for a second about the VidBlaster 3.14, which is the latest, greatest, and the official release of version 3. And there's something new in it that is really kind of cool. And I mean, there are lots of new things in it that are kind of cool, but this one is what do they call it? A sleeper. This is one that's really quiet. You know, it's like that kid that sits on the back row that doesn't appear to be really paying attention in school, and then he's the one that comes and gets A's on everything. There is built into, and I think it's built into all the editions home through broadcast in version 3.14, the ability to convert that to a sort of a customized piece of software. What do you mean, Tom? You know how you get the splash screen that comes up right in the middle that says VidBlaster? Well, you can change that splash screen to say Tom Sinclair, or Tommy House, or whatever you want, Martin Kay, and put your own picture there if you want to. And I think that's pretty cool, and especially if you were in a situation where you were using this let's say you were going to do a show, you were going to broadcast the local county government meeting, and you have your own streaming company, and and everybody's gathered around you as you're setting up, and they want to see what it is you're going to do. And when that splash screen splashes onto the screen, it says, "Hey, Tom Sinclair's streaming company." Well, hey, that's pretty cool. The other thing that you can change in the top left-hand corner of VidBlaster, well, you can't see it because you can't see my screen. I guess I can do a screen capture, but never mind. We don't want to do another one of those. Right now, it says VidBlaster Broadcast. And I can actually change that text to say anything I want. So if somebody's looking over my shoulder, they want to know what software I'm using, I can make it say Tom's Streaming Service, and it's right there. So I think that's pretty cool. And it allows it to be a little bit more customized to you, so that if you don't want to advertise VidBlaster, you don't have to. You can advertise anything you want. Oh, it would be, no, I won't say that. I'll save this one for the after show. But so if you want to hear about it, stick around. Remind me that I was going to tell you a funny for the after show. Anyway, that's a pretty neat feature. So you can take VidBlaster and you can turn it into your own creation and have lots of fun with it and customize it. You know, you could, if you've got a special PC that's got colors on it, your graphics for the splash screen can match your PC. I think that would be really a lot of fun. So that's really cool. Now, if you are interested in going further on that, oh, and there's also a way, and I haven't figured out exactly how to do it yet, but I read about it, that you can actually disable certain menu options. You, as the end user, can disable certain menu options in your VidBlaster. If you don't want to be faced with, 50 different choices on the streamer module, well, it's not really 50, but you know what I'm saying. You can take those off so that only the ones you want to use on a regular basis are available for you to use. And that just makes it, again, customized for you, a lot easier and quicker to do what you need to do. And in the heat of the moment, it's nice to have that extra split second of 5 choices that you didn't have to make in order to get to the one choice that you did want to make. So that can be really cool. But if you want to go the next step further, and you would like something that is really totally customized for you, and that the module colors might be different or the background might be different, that it was permanently set up differently for you, and maybe even market those as your own product, VidBlaster does offer an OEM branding service. I'll tell you up front, it's expensive. There's no doubt about that. But if it's worth it to you, I can hook you up with it. Oh, by the way, full disclosure, I forgot to say it this show, I am an authorized VidBlaster reseller and a moderator on the VidBlaster forum. I am definitely that VidBlaster guy. There's no doubt about it. But I can help you if you've got problems and you need to try to get them straightened out. Sometimes I can cut through some red tape. I also can help you with upgrades from version 1 and 2 to version 3, or upgrades from one edition like Home or Pro to one of the higher editions. Happy to help with that. I make a few bucks on it, definitely, full disclosure. And what else was I going to say? Oh, and if you're interested in that OEM plan, I can definitely help you with that and get that established. I've had one customer do that for 100 licenses. They were doing something really special with them, and it's been a lot of fun. Let's see, what else can we talk about? My apologies to those of you that are just joining. Today's show wasn't well planned because I spent all my show prep time trying to put together a tutorial and a demo on using VidBlaster and FMLE with YouTube Live, and it just bombed and never worked. So I did it live a few minutes ago, but you can come back and watch it later when we upload it to YouTube. That was the benefit last week of using YouTube Live, is I didn't have to upload a recorded video to YouTube because it was already there. They recorded it while we streamed it. I did choose to upload just the show portion, but the YouTube Live portion included the pre-show and the after-show. So if you missed last week, you can look at either version, the polished, well, I won't say polished version, but the show itself that I recorded and uploaded, or the whole thing, the pre-show, post-show, and the show itself on the YouTube channel. And I think they're right there next to each other. It can be a lot of fun. Let's take a look at the chat room, see if any questions have popped up as we talked about YouTube and other kinds of things like that. We saw about ads and slates, and the discussion about Skype. And okay, looks like I'm pretty well caught up on the chat room. Appreciate you guys in chat popping in and sharing your opinions. Let's see if anybody popped in where I wasn't looking. George is here, and Mikey G is here, and that looks like the only ones that have joined us lately. Thank you very much. Next week, I have been called out of town. I'd say not completely unexpectedly, because I thought it might happen, but it did. I've got to take my son to college and then pop in and check on my folks. So I'll be making a big sweep through Tennessee into Virginia, and then hopefully back through the Carolinas on the way south, and hoping to stop in and see some friends in North Carolina and South Carolina. I will be in touch with you guys if I can make it, and maybe I can buy you breakfast or lunch or dinner or something. So we will not have a show next week. I guess that's my way of saying no show next week. I apologize for that. But who knows what may come after that. Looking forward to having Alan Bunt on a future show. As you remember, Alan was, I think he was show number 2, and that has been one of the most popular shows that we had. He did a great, prepared a video that showed everything that he was using YouTube for at his church there in Wisconsin Rapids, and was really, did a very nice job. And I think he is going to come on again. He has upgraded his software to, I think they're at the Studio Edition now, and they're also at version 3. And he has gone absolutely nuts. Now, Alan, I say this full of love and affection, has gone absolutely nuts with macros. And if you're interested in macros, it is part of it is one of the functions of the API, and is only available in the Studio Edition and the Broadcast Edition, the 2 top editions. But if you'd like to know more about it, there's a macro thread on the VidBlaster forum, so you can pop in and see about that. If you download the latest, greatest beta on a PC that doesn't have a license on it, it will be the Studio Edition. So if you have more than one PC, and one of them's got licensed VidBlaster on it, and one of them has never had VidBlaster on it, you can put the Studio version, that's the trial edition there, and have a look at the macros. And it's really nice to automate a bunch of different things under one button. It's a great module saver too, by the way. If you can take what might be 4 things that would happen and require different effects modules to put them all together, suddenly you can do it with one button and have the modules combine themselves automatically too. That's pretty cool. So we'll get Alan on, and I've got some other folks that I've been talking to about coming on as guests, some of our newer VidBlaster users who are using VidBlaster in some really interesting ways that I think will kind of pique your curiosity and might just spur you on to doing some really great and cool things too. And coming up this fall, I'm sorry this sounds like a long commercial, or I guess maybe it's more of an announcement. Coming up, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it in September or October. I'm thinking October. I want to do another giveaway contest. Well, I remember last year was it April? March or April? We gave away a home edition of VidBlaster. That's the basic bottom level edition, $195 US. And then gave away 2 second prizes. Didn't intend to give away second prizes, but folks were, and the premise was that you make a video showing how you would use or how you do use VidBlaster, and got lots of really interesting entries in, and had several folks that did just really, really well, and so we ended up giving away a couple of $50 second prizes as well as $195 main prize, and so that was a lot of fun, and we'd like to do that again, to encourage folks to come up with creative ways to use VidBlaster. But I'm not sure exactly what the contest would be. We'll just have to see what strikes us. Maybe it'll be something to do. I'd like it to be something everybody could do. I was going to say I'd like it. Maybe it could be something to do with macros, but I want everybody to be able to enter the contest if they'd like to. So we'll have to put the thinking caps on that one and see. I will give another plug, though, and say if you're interested in finding out more about our custom VidBlaster PCs, drop me a note, tom@thatvidblasterguy.com, and I'd be happy to chat with you about that. Typically, our PC includes an i7 processor, a solid-state main hard drive, some spinning platter backup drives. Most of the ones that we sell are for sports, and so we're dedicating a lot of drives for the instant replay, as well as 4-port and 6-port capture cards. It can be really nice to get a PC in that is configured and ready to go. So if you don't have the skill or the patience or the desire to tweak one yourself and you want it pre-tweaked, give me a holler, and I'd be happy to chat with you more about that. Prices, they'll be anywhere, and it'll be more than going to a big box store and getting a box, that's for sure. Prices will start somewhere in the $2,700, $2,800 range, and we'll go on up for there depending on what your needs are. But we try to build it to meet your needs as well as anticipate what your needs will be so that you've got some future proofing in it. And if you want to send it back to us and let us reconfigure it as your needs change, we can do that too. 3-year warranty on the hardware and unlimited software assistance as needed, which includes nights and weekends. You get my cell number. Well, I think we have come to the end of our time together. So it's been really neat hanging out with you today. And I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks, and that would be August 28th, when we have another exciting episode of That VidBlaster Guy. I'm Tom Sinclair, That VidBlaster Guy. I want to send you out with a little bit of our patented theme music, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in.